So our project is built to create a branch on GitHub so that it doesn't actually merge with our master branch. So I'll go here, create a new branch, then I'll call this, let me just call it YouTube. And then bring changes to YouTube. Okay, switch branch. So I'm going to created a new startup project. Good. So I'll push it there. Yeah. Okay. So while that is working, we're going to add. Yeah, of course, we want to add. So this is our application right now. To make sure that things are working well, we are just going to make our first run here. So I'm just going to choose an emulator. I have an emulator here. So let me just run it. I think it's already opened. Yeah. So I'll just run this project and then to see if everything is working fine before we proceed. Wow. Wow, you're doing good. Okay, it's installing. Usually the first run takes quite some time, so you have to be patient. But if you have a very good machine, like I think it's going to be faster. Okay, good. So our application is running properly without any errors. So what I'm going to do here now is to introduce you to the concept behind our navigation system, right? And we'll be using quite a number of screens, and I'll be dividing the project into a number of modules. that will help us, separate our concerns within the application. So let's get right to it. So I think you need to visit developer.android.com. Under guides, you move to navigation component and then principles of navigation. So this is an idea that was introduced, I think, a year or two ago. I think a year ago. They call it the Jetpack, Android Jetpack. See, and then what it does is it's a suite of products that they have that help to make Android development very easy. And one of them is the navigation component, right? So what this does is it helps you to use the idea of having one activity and multiple fragments to create your application, so that it simplifies, the whole navigation system. Also helps you to share data between those fragments and a whole lot, actually. So I'll leave this link in the description as well, so that you can read more about it. But our main focus over here is to understand how this works, right? So let's say this is a sample application that they had, the sunflower application, and then it has some garden interface over here, the list screen, and then you tap on each item and it sends you to a detailed screen. So you realize that it's sharing data from this page, the list screen, to the other page, the detail screen. Good. So we are going to include this in our application, right? So in order to get started, we have to get started. So okay. My internet is so fast today. Good. So I'm going to copy these dependencies over here into the application. So we'll go under Gradle scripts and build a Gradle. Okay, let me just apply this. And then I'll scroll down to dependencies. Right, so what I usually do is I like to separate my dependencies so that I can also read them when I come back later in the future. So let me just do that right now. So we are going to have navigation here. Sorry. So we copying this. We use Kotlin, so we'll need this. Okay, and then we'll be testing as well as time goes on. So let's just include the testing right now. So what I'll do is, okay, let me just separate them here. So let me just put navigation here under testing. And then this version, let me use a specific version instead. Okay, good. So what next? I think that this is what we need for now. But when we want to share data across the fragment, we need to include additional dependencies. So let me just scroll down. Yeah, we need to include these. So let's go here. So this will be in our top level build.gradle. So we're going to go into the top level. Let me just get rid of this. Paste this there. And also include this script here inside our project level, application or module level build.gradle. So if I want to follow the pattern above, then it means I have to add this and set the ID field to be that. And then now we can sync. Okay, so while we wait for this to complete, let's start creating our fragment. So to get started, we just follow the steps here. It says we need a host activity, right? The activity that is actually going to host all the fragments. And then we need to include this inside that activity. First, we need a graph. So let's create a graph. So I'll wait for this to complete, or I can just go on. So we'll go to new Android resource directory, and then I'll include the navigation. Just press N or tap N. Then I'll create an XML here. So I'll call this my nav graph, since this will probably be the only nav graph we'll be having in the application. Of course. Why wouldn't I? Okay, so the build is almost complete. It's indexing. Okay, so let me go into the code, and I'm going to set an ID here. Okay, it has an ID of nav graph. Good. Let's go into our main activity, and then we'll go into the code. I don't think we'll need this guy, so we'll just delete it and replace it with the content that we have here. So I copy this and then paste it in. God bless whoever brought copy and paste. So I'm going to replace this fragment with fragment container view, which is the new way of creating fragments, right? Yeah, you don't need to include fragments inside your activity like that. So I don't even know why they keep it on their page as this when they recommend that to be used that, but yeah, you get the point. So we go inside our main activity. I don't think we need to do anything here for now, but then we start adding our fragments. So that's the next step. So when we split this, we realize that our fragment container is inside here. Good. So let's start adding our fragments. So we realize that we have the host over here as activity main. Let's add our first fragment. So before we do that, let me just split this application into packages. I'll be using the MVVM architecture, which is model view model, right? So we need our model, we need our view, and we also need our view model. I'll add more as time goes on, but this is what we need for now. So I'll move the main activity into the view, because all activities in fragments are supposed to be good. So I think probably closing and reopening your Android Studio should fix this if you have the same problem. I don't know why it was doing that. Good. So inside view, I'm going to create a folder here called welcome. So let's just start. Let's get our packages out of the way. We're going to have a shopping cart. We're also going to have authentication. We're going to have search. We're also going to have search. We need our home. I think this is okay for now. So let's start with our welcome page. So I'll go to new fragment, then I'll create a blank fragment. Yeah. So you're going to call this welcome fragment. And instead of, okay, let's just leave the naming like this. So we have our welcome fragment here. Okay, so it's built successfully, and we may not need most of the things here, so let me just start clearing them. But it's a good template though, so I don't think I'll need all of these. Let's make it as empty as possible. Good. So we have our welcome here, and let me add the authentication and then the home. So So this time I'm going to create a fragment with a view model. So let me just call this authentication fragment. So yeah, auth fragment. So we are going to have the auth view model. Good. Okay. Well, that's going well. Good. And let's add the home. I think the home will also need a view model since we'll be loading our products from there. So we're going to have our home fragment, and then this time, instead of calling it home view model, I'm going to call it product view model. Good, good. Okay. So now that we have these three fragments, I'm going to include them inside the graph. So in order to do that, you just click on this icon over there. We open our nav graph, click on this, and then we choose our first fragment. So we'll click on welcome, and then we add the rest. Right, so authentication, and then home. Good. Let's click on this for them to be arranged properly. So you realize that there's a little home icon at the top here. This shows that this will be our entry point. This fragment will be our entry point. But you can always change them. So let's say if I wanted auth fragment to be my entry point, I just click on auth fragment and click on the home icon over there. It will set it as my start destination. So we want to keep this the way it is. And also, this is something that I usually do. I prefer to have all my IDs for the navigation set inside an XML file, so that I just make reference to them. So I'll just create a file here called IDs, and inside here I'm going to set my ID. So I'll have nav welcome here, and to be of type ID. I duplicate this a number of times, and then I set for all the other ones. So we have welcome, auth, we also have home, we have search, and then we have cart. I think we also have, that's it. Okay, that's it. We'll need a product page, product, to view the details of a product. So yeah, let me just add it for now. Good. And I go inside the code, and then my start destination over here is welcome fragment. So I'm going to change that to nav welcome, and then I'll change this ID to welcome. So instead of using the plus over here, which is going to create a new ID in memory, I'm just going to remove the plus, so that it will use, when I press Ctrl and click on this, it will use the ID that we defined there. Again, this is just me, this is how I usually like to do mine. So we have nav auth. We're also going to have nav home, and I'm going to remove the plus from there. Sorry. For the labels, they are not really that important, but you can always add them here. So I'm just going to create another resource over here. I could include them inside the strings, but I like to separate them. So fragment labels, and I can't spell labels. Okay, fragment labels, and I'm going to have this here. So I'm going to use string and just call it label welcome, and just going to have welcome like this. So we have welcome, home, auth, cart, search, product. Yeah. So let me just update this. And in order to create a duplicate of a line, you just press Ctrl D if you didn't know already. and then search product. Good. So I'm going to replace them here. So I'm just going to call label home, label auth, and then label welcome. Good. So back into design mode, we have something like this. So let's start, putting a little logic inside our navigation system over here. So from the page here, I think, here. They had an example here showing, this is a very good graph. Let me just reset my zoom. Okay, so they have this entry point over here to your left hand side, which is the fragment main, which can navigate to any of these destinations, right? So it can move to fragment view transactions at the top here, fragment choose recipient down below, and then in the middle, and then fragment view balance at the bottom. And then from this page also, we can move to this page and that page, and so on and so forth. So that's the idea we are also going to use here. From the welcome page, we are expecting the user to, for a new user, right? If you haven't logged in yet, we are expecting you to move to the authentication page. So we are just going to click on this small dot over here and then drag it onto the auth like this. And then we're also going to click on this and drag it to the home for users who are already authenticated, right? So if I'm on the welcome page and I haven't logged in and I tap on a button, it's supposed to send me to the authentication page. Now, on the authentication page, if I've signed in, then I'm supposed to move to the home page. Good. We are going to add one more page soon over here for a new user who wants to maybe, customize your own profile and so on and so forth, so that you can have a page, an intermediary page that you can use to set up a profile picture, username, phone number, all those good things. So for now, we'll keep it this simple in this episode. Yeah. So we can either move from welcome to authentication, welcome to home, or welcome through authentication to the home page. Let's just rearrange this properly. So auto arrange, and this is how it's going to look like. Good. Now let's run the application again. Before I do that, you realize that on this page, yes, we are having, I don't know if you can see this, we are having this up here, hello blank fragment. This usually shows the start destination inside the graph for the activity that is hosting that graph. So our start destination is the welcome page. So that's the design we're going to see inside here. Now let me just run the application one more time. And good. We have hello blank fragment here. So our application is working perfectly well.